welcome to Oakville Matters. Today on Oakville Matters, I'm joined by the top executives of Oakville Enterprises, and that's a corporation that you may not have heard of. I think everybody's heard of Oakville Hydro. Rob Lister is the president of Oakville Enterprises, and Scott Mudie is the lead of the Enterprises section of Enterprises. I wonder if that sounded confusing. Why don't I turn to you guys to explain how you break out your responsibilities. Oakville Hydro is owned by Oakville Enterprises, and Oakville Enterprises is owned by the town. And there's a board of business people from Oakville who run Oakville Enterprises and Oakville Hydro and all of the other energy services companies that we operate. The most important thing about Oakville Enterprises is the dividends that Oakville Enterprises has earned outside of Oakville Hydro are responsible in the largest part for the town's ability to have made possible the brand new hospital we benefit from with the $130 million donation that made that hospital possible. So, Rob Lister, you're the grand high poobah of everything. Why don't you introduce Scott, and then let's talk about this corporate success story.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Scott Mudie, Chief Operating Officer of Energy and Infrastructure Services at Oakville Enterprises Corporation. And as you mentioned, Oakville Enterprises Corporation came out of what used to be Oakville Hydro Corporation, and as you mentioned, Council looked for a change to that. So as a holding company, we have the regulated distribution company Oakville Hydro, and then we also have three other lines of business, which I'll get Scott to talk to in a couple minutes. So let me just talk a little bit about Oakville Hydro. Services just strictly the town of Oakville. We have about 70,000 individuals, families, and businesses that we serve with our distribution. We get most of the power from, we purchase all the power from the independent electricity system operator. There's 5 transformer stations that supply Oakville. And
you're not allowed to mark up the power you purchase, is that right?
That's correct. So the distribution rates, the portion that Oakville Hydro, we collect all the electricity, we bill all Oakville customers for the use of the electricity. The portion that Oakville Hydro works with, it represents 20 to 25% of the bill, and those prices are regulated by the Ontario Energy Board, so we're very tightly regulated. They set the electricity prices. We have no flexibility in that. And in addition to setting rates, the OEB, Ontario Energy Board, they look at customer service, they look at performance, they look at efficiency, and they look at reliability. They monitor those things. So the regulated utility is very tightly controlled by the Ontario Energy Board. Our average bill, now with the Fair Hydro plan that came out recently by the province, and they've reduced the total bill by about 25%. And so that's taken our portion of the bill. We were running around 20% of the total bill. We're now up closer to 25% of the bill because the electricity portion has come down. So the average bill in Oakville is about $112 a month, and that's down from about $130 from previously to the Fair Hydro plan. So we have one of the most reliable distribution systems in Canada. Our reliability statistics are up there with some of the leading organizations across Canada. We have a very automated distribution system. We have significant remote switching capability. So when there's outages, we can remotely isolate the outage, get the customers back on power within a few minutes, and then we can address the localized problem.
Now, I've always been impressed with that automated control room technology that Oakville invested in. Scott, let's talk about the let's call it. I'm going to call it. I know it's energy services and infrastructure, but I like to just think of it as enterprises. You've been responsible for expanding us in that area. For the people at home, to set this up, I think what's important to understand is that this actually started many years ago, this idea that there would be something to do for the benefit of the town outside of just electricity delivery. And that very first effort was something that we grew over many years. It was called Blink, and it was a fiber optic cable system throughout the town that we wound up selling in, I guess, about 7, 8 years ago, because it had reached that industry had reached a point of inflection where that was the time to sell that. But it started out, I think, it might have had its roots back when there was a commission rather than like even before the town owned hydro, when it was an independent utility corporation, an independent utility commission, I mean to say. And because that was a success and did the taxpayers so much good in terms of, it was a major portion of the ability of the town to make the hospital happen. Yeah. We decided to blow on that and try to make it grow. So Scott, why don't you give us a taste of just how much you've grown it?
Sure. Well, thanks, Mayor Burton. Well, we've started, as you said, back about 2010 with a small construction company and a small energy services
and that
division.
Construction company was also an inheritance from, I think, the commission days, or right after the start of the town owning it. I'm not clear about when it actually started, but those two things, the fiber optic and the construction, they were kind of natural things that the commission needed to do anyway, and so there was a kind of obviousness to turning them into business units.
Yeah, yes, correct. I mean, many of the services even today that we perform were legacy services that the utility would have either performed on its own or contracted out.
And then, another seed is other utilities found us more efficient or more attractive to do some of these things, and we were able to hire some of our services out. I mean, even to the point of, I'm going to muddy the water here, but on electricity distribution, there were times when we helped other utilities in neighboring municipalities distribute their electricity through help with control rooms or various things, many things.
Right. So we've structured our enterprises into 3 lines of business. We have a line of business that focuses on power generation, specifically renewable energy. We have a line of business that focuses on energy services, which is primarily provide services to utilities, so metering, for instance, or conservation and demand management programs, things of that nature. And then we also have the final line of business is infrastructure services. And that division, which is our largest, focuses on utility and municipal services that our customers are no longer able to provide internally and look to an outsourced solution. These 3 divisions now comprise over 1,000 employees across Ontario, and we have businesses and revenue streams coming in from outside of Ontario as well. The infrastructure services, if I can touch on that one, we have companies that provide locate services. So you've probably seen our guys out there.
Call before you dig.
Call before you dig, that's right. And so we're out there spray painting the lawns and the sidewalks and just ensuring that the public is safe, that contractors and excavators understand where the buried plant is. And we cover 87% of Ontario through our companies PVS Contractors and GTEL Engineering.
Well, I'd be happy to cover 87% of the world for something as basic and profitable as that.
Yeah, it's been a great service for us, and through that service, we've been able to grow and expand our services through similar customers, but into different lines of service. So we now have engineering companies. So we provide municipalities and telecoms with engineering services to help them build out their infrastructure, whether it's overhead fiber optics or underground buried plant, and we have.
Now, what's a buried plant?
So, buried plant is
that spinach.
Yeah, it's a vernacular we use in the industry. Basically, anything, any infrastructure that's buried underground, that is part of either a distribution network for gas, water, or electricity.
So cables, pipes, conduits.
Cables, pipes, conduits. Yes. And so we're heavily into that engineering world now. We have close to 200 technicians across Ontario, CAD technicians, engineers that are performing those services on behalf of our customers. And then, most recently, we're looking at ways of leveraging new technologies to make legacy engineering services more efficient. A great example is Huron Geomatics. It's a company that we acquired just a couple of years ago. They are experts in data collection and in LiDAR imagery.
What is LiDAR?
LiDAR? Well, it's a mix between radar and lasers. Essentially, we can affix a camera either to a drone, which flies to collect the data, or to a truck, and we can, at higher speeds, 50 to 80 kilometers an hour, we can capture all of the data within the camera's view and put that into useful applications for our customers.
Is this like for checking the maintenance situation of a string of wires, or what?
Well, there's many applications. One of them is exactly that, Mayor Burton. We can provide thermal imagery so that we can show utilities such as Oakville Hydro if there's any hotspots or dangers or areas that maybe they should roll out a crew to investigate further. But the technology has gained so much momentum, we can actually provide our customers with imagery that's within millimeters of accuracy.
So it sounds like we're going to help other utilities become as reliable as us.
That is the goal, yes.
As long as they pay us for it, I guess.
Yes, yes. So the technology play here, I think, has boundless opportunities. When we look at a survey team using the old traditional methods, they would be able to survey 1 kilometer a day, 2 kilometers a day. With our mobile mapping technology, we can map and collect data up to 50 kilometers in a day. So the scale and the efficiencies that we can gain are quite significant, and it just leads to making utilities and our customers more efficient as well, which eventually the ratepayers benefit from.
Well, it's also had a delightful effect, all of them taken together, on the bottom line of the taxpayer here. Rob, in 10 years, how much in dividends has Oakville Enterprises paid to the town?
Well, in less than 10 years, it's been about $74 million that we've passed up to the town in dividends. Most of that coming from the
enterprise
competitive side of the business.
Because I don't think the electricity distribution side, which is so heavily regulated, has, I mean, I would be surprised if it was more than a sixth or a seventh of that.
That's correct. That's a small portion of the overall number, for sure. Yeah.
So we've got 3 different groups of lines of business. You talked about infrastructure. On generation, where do we generate electricity, and how do we do it?
Well, most people wouldn't understand, but we've got generating facilities all across Ontario. We have a large solar farm out in Picton, Ontario, in Prince Edward County.
The picture?
Yeah, I think we do have a picture of that one, Rob.
All right, that looks large.
Yeah, it's 120 acres of photovoltaic cells, generating, with a generation capacity of 14 megawatts. And we put that into service. We actually built that ourselves, and we operate it and maintain it ourselves. And it has a generating capacity of 14 megawatts.
That's a far cry from the rooftop solar panels that you and I took a picture of on top of Town Hall once.
Yeah, 2012 that happened.
Yeah, that's right. So we do have rooftop solar installations across on Oakville.
Mention about the jet engine that we use to blow the snow off.
Oh, yeah. So, well, one of the issues with ground mount solar and rooftop in general, solar installations, is you can get an accumulation of snow on the panels, and then that provides shading and hinders your ability to generate electricity. So one of the ways we have combated that at Sunny Shores here, at our Sunny Shores Solar Park, is we have a jet engine that is on a trailer, and we tow it through the rows of panels, and it blows all that snow right off. So where there's a need, there's a way. So
A friend of mine has a small rural property, and he's got I don't know what size it is, 10 kilowatts. Is that a small site? He's got a small site, and he has to go out with a brush.
yes.
I bet he envies you the jet engine. Do they make jet engines small enough for him, I wonder?
Probably not. Yeah.
Leaf blower maybe.
Let's talk about Kagwan Generating Station
Sure.
on Manitoulin.
Yeah, so one of our assets is a water hydraulic power generating station.
Is that it there?
Yeah, well, that's a shot of the Bridal Veil Falls. That's at the mouth of Lake Kagwan on Manitoulin Island. And we purchased a small generating station there, 750 kilowatts. Been in operation for many decades, but it's a solid technology, and it's a great part of our portfolio of generating assets.
Now, is this a run-of-the-river generator? Is this a small head? What is it?
Yeah, so it's run a river, right? So no dam is really required. We have weirs that takes a portion of the water off. They're much more environmentally friendly. We're not having to deal with large swings in water levels, and we're able to maintain, for the residents and the cottage owners there, we're able to maintain a very stable water level.
That's like a heritage style of electricity generation, or a pioneer style of electricity generation.
Yeah, many of the old mills would have used similar technology. That's correct.
Originally was a pulp and paper generating plant, independent of the grid.
That's right.
When it was built.
Are there any more where that came from?
Yeah, we also.
Any more run of the river?
Yeah.
Well, we're always looking for opportunities. They come up on the market from time to time, so we evaluate them and see if it's an appropriate acquisition for our portfolio.
Now, another thing that I know we've been into for a long time, before either of you joined us, was we generate a little bit of electricity. I don't think it's very much, out of what I'm going to call waste gas from the landfill in Halton's landfill. How is that doing?
That's correct. I have a picture, Scott. You can explain.
Yeah, so we've partnered with the Region of Halton at the Milton landfill site. We, along with the region, harvest the gas, the methane gas that's a result of the decomposition of the waste that's in the site. We harvest that and we turn that into electricity through turbine engines. There's a definite environmental benefit to that.
Well, methane, I know, is 20 times worse as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide.
That's exactly right. You're right, Mayor. And so by converting that into electricity, we get the benefit of first of all making something of benefit from that waste gas, but secondly, we actually lower the emissions that could happen.
So, and I doubt we make money, but I'm sure we cover most of our costs that way because we sell some of that electricity.
Correct. Yes, we sell that back into the grid under a renewable energy standard offer program. One of the first tranches of the provincial government's foray into renewable energy. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, there's a lot of interlinking among the 4 local municipalities of the regional municipality of Halton. Oakville's just one of the 4. You know, it's Burlington, Halton Hills, Milton, and Oakville in alphabetical order. That's from my friends in Burlington. They like it in alphabetical order. Oh, that's because they're first. But and with Milton, we have several overlapping neighborly activities. As you just mentioned, the landfills in Milton, although people who know Halton history know that the landfill started out in Burlington, but the boundary changed, which made it Milton. And quick digression, the people of the politicians of Burlington hated having it be in Burlington until the line was moved, and then they were fine with it where it still was. And the people in Milton, the politicians in Milton who had been fine with it when it was named Burlington, became very unhappy with it when it was named Milton, but still same location, but complete flip on attitude. But we have a transformer station that feeds Oakville, and I think helps Milton out too, in Milton, that we own. And maybe you could talk to how that came to happen, because I'm really proud of that story.
Yeah, I'll talk to it. So it's Glenorchy Transformer Station is what we call it, and it's a 230 kV station. We get the supply from
What's a
Hydro.
kV?
Kilovolts.
Is that a lot?
So it's 1,000 volts.
So that's a whole bunch?
That's a lot. 230 kV is the most prominent high voltage transmission voltage in Canada.
How much kV do we need to make Oakville keep the lights on?
Well, it's a different unit of measure. We start to talk about megawatts then, and our peak is about 380 megawatts. And
But is one of these 230 kV feeds enough for Oakville, or do we need like 5 of them?
well, we actually have 5, and we're unique in Oakville in that regard, that we do have 3 different supplies from the high voltage transmission grid supplying Oakville. So we have the ability at the distribution level to transfer load within Oakville. So that if we were to lose one of our main feeds, we can transfer the load and the customers would not be out of power. But let me talk about that station a little bit. We have the 5 that supply Oakville. 4 of those are owned by Hydro One, and we built the Glenorchy one back in the 2011-12 timeframe. And it supplies, there's a dedicated feed that goes to the Oakville Hospital. We also have a dedicated feed from Palermo that feeds the hospital, so that provides a lot of reliability.
And Palermo's another transformer
station. And that's a station that's owned by Hydro One that's up Bronte, just north of Dundas. And
I hope ours is better.
well, I would say ours would be better because it's newer technology, very efficient, and so it's a jewel for us. We operate it, and it gives us a fair amount of flexibility, and it's a good asset for Oakville to own. Yeah.
I was hoping you'd tell my favorite part of the story, which is why we built it instead of letting Hydro One build it.
We were able to build it at a lower cost to our customers than had Hydro One built it, for sure, and that was a main driver for us to do it.
Okay, I'll tell the story.
Okay.
The proposition from Hydro One was this: for more money than it cost us to build it, they would build it, but we would pay for it, and they would own it. And your leadership in Oakville looked at that and said, "We'll do it ourselves, thank you very much." We turned into Little Red Hand right there on the spot. Yep. And you guys deliver it in terms of a higher quality and a lower cost, and we own it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always better to be master of your own fate by owning your own stuff.
Yeah. And you mentioned Milton. So we do provide 2 feeders to Milton. The south end of Milton is fed from our Glenorchy transformer station. That helped them out because they would have had to put some very long feeders in to supply that load just north of the 407 there. So that's good collaboration with Milton and Oakville, being able to do that.
You hear that, Mayor Krantz? We are your friend. So that's it for generation and transformation, is it?
For infrastructure and generation, and we have the Energy Services Division. So
let's hear about services.
So Energy Services, we have a company called Horseshoe Metering, and that company provides a suite of services under metering needs from utilities to actual condos and condo owners. We're accredited by Measurement Canada, and so what we can provide, for instance, in a multi-residential building, is we can meter their gas, we can meter their water, and we can meter their electricity. And the beauty of that is that each suite owner is billed for their consumption, where in past bulk metering situations, everybody would kind of put into the pot, and if you were a heavy user, then you were benefiting from that, and if you were someone who would conserve or would use less, then you had to pay more than your fair share.
You were carrying your neighbor.
Yes, in many ways. So there's been a real push on getting each individual suite or condo owner to pay their own share and to have their own metering. So we provide that service to condos and condo boards and developers.
Now, how far back does Golden Horseshoe go as a Oakville enterprise?
Well, that dates way back to 1998.
So that would be the Hydro Commission,
yes.
Even before Mike Harris turned the hydro commissions into municipal utilities.
Correct. Yes, that was that we would refer that as one of the legacy businesses. Yes.
Now, have we grown it, shrunk it, kept it the same? What's going on there?
That business fluctuates depending on the needs of the utilities across Ontario, and basically is following in step with the construction industry. So it's grown, but you'll see some volatility in that business year to year.
So where's the most logical form of competition to that? Is it coming from developers when they build their own condos and they wise into this? Or is it condo boards themselves? Like, what's happening in this space?
Yeah, so there's what is in the industry is called a sub-meterer. So it's somebody, a private company, that puts in the meters and then acts as an embedded distributor within perhaps Oakville's territory. So they would be they would bill and collect for the energy needs of the tenants, and then they would pay Oakville Hydro in this case for their bulk meter. And they're unregulated at the moment, and through the most recent edition of the long-term energy plan that the government has put out, there is talk that there is going to be increased regulation on these private utility companies.
Now, I think there's about 17% of Oakville's home units, let's call it, that are the suite form of living. You like that, the suite form of living? I'm having a debate with my wife all the time about, should we downsize from a single-family home to a condo suite? She's not buying that it's a suite form of living yet. But so there's evidence to me in terms of the growth plan that that's going to grow as a portion of all homes, not only province-wide, and we're not just in Oakville, we're as many places as we can be. But it's also going to increase right in Oakville, I assume.
That's right. Densification.
I mean, when I say increase, it might go from if it's 17%, it'll go to 25% or something. It's not. We're not talking about radical change, but a sea change in terms of the portion of the future. What else is on the horizon for us? Where might we go? What might we do? More of the same, or is there any new stuff?
Well, we're certainly Ontario-centric at the moment.
I tell you what, on another time we'll explore the rest of the world. I've just realized that we're running out of time, and I wanted to say to the viewers, thank you very much for being with us today, and I hope to see you next time on Oakville Matters.